thematically, we're trying to get something else here. So at any rate, I just want to welcome them. And I also want to thank Margie and Mike. We are not going to forget the Italian heritage here. And as many of you know, we just had the Italian festival here. So we have a lot of different festivals, and I hope that there'll be a lot of cross-pollination. And I also want to stress we don't really want to become a melting pot. We want to have all these cultures represented vibrantly for their own cultural contributions. And certainly we'll work together, but we want everybody represented. And the other thing about History Park is I'm a museum expert, and I have a staff of museum experts, but we're not here to tell your story. So the idea is that everybody comes here and they get to tell their own story in their own way. We're not trying to tell somebody else's story. We're just trying to provide a platform so that people can shine in their own cultures. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alita. And before you leave, Chief, I'd like to have you at least address the people here to tell us what it is you're doing for safety here in San Jose. We named it Raza instead of Mexican Cultural Center because we wanted to recognize the Puerto Ricans among us.
Muchas gracias. You know, one of the things that I say oftentimes, I have to go to a community event on Saturday to talk about how we're policing our residents in our city. And sometimes I can't talk about how we police our residents and how I want to police our residents without talking a little bit about my background. You know, I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Came over to San Jose as a young kid. I learned how to speak English in San Jose. I lived with in a small house with several families when we first started out here. I remember in 1991, I feel old, but in 1991 when I took my oral board test to become a police officer, you know, one of the things that I said then, it still resonates today, is that, you know, San Jose is so beautifully diverse that, you know, it doesn't matter if you're from Puerto Rico or wherever you're from. I was a stranger here too. My family was a stranger here too. And so I think I like to think that I understand, regardless what issues we're facing. And so that's really how I like to look out and police our city to keep us safe. We're raising our staffing levels. I'll tell you right now, we're still well understaffed as the 10th largest city in the country, but your police officers are doing amazing work. So far to date, they've taken almost over 170 guns and the people that are possessing them off the street this year. And so they continue to work hard. The proactivity's up. There's excitement. And to be quite honest with you, the community support that we feel, and I know I've been talking to some young ladies that were at our community meeting a couple weeks ago, is unbelievable. I think the community, I know the community sees our police officers, sees the hard work that they're doing, and really we just got to do it together. The mantra really is, together we're stronger, together we're safer. So it really was an honor to be here with you today, and I don't care if I'm now 15 minutes late for my next meeting. It was well worth it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Reverend Moore, did you want to say anything on behalf of our black brothers and sisters? Reverend Moore, did you want to say anything on behalf of our black brothers and sisters? You're the only one here. Now you know what it's like to be a minority.
I'm just so happy and ecstatic about this house opening up right next door. And when I got the invitation about Raza meant, about the meant for all of our people. And it's so important as Silicon Valley and for this valley that we understand we represent a mixed majority minority community. And we all are loving and respectful of one another. And that we continually support and build up the housing and the associations we have. I am so glad to hear about the May Cinco de Mayo. I will make sure that there's some participation, that we will get something behind you to support that. We'll continue to get behind you and have events here. And as I was looking around, even thought it'd be, I don't know why Juneteenth doesn't come here and give their celebration here in the park. So let's start looking to do more things in this park that reflects the history of all of our cultures so we can celebrate each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. You know, when I was head of the Mexican Heritage Corporation in Plaza, and and I was for 15 years, the founding chair, I kept asking this one woman who was way up in one of the local high-tech companies why she didn't support what we were doing. And she says, well, I'm Puerto Rican. I can't. I mean, you're a Mexican Heritage Corporation. So I said, well, that's why we changed it here to Raza, because it incorporates every country, every ethnicity, every race, every gender that happens to identify with the Latin culture. And so that's why it's the Raza Historical Society, and that's why we thank you for coming and invite you to walk in and see how much work still needs to be done. And Carlos Perez is here. I mentioned him earlier. Are you going to be working on that Velasquez mural that got painted over? Are you doing anything on that?
Yes, I'm doing some things. I'll give a quick update.
You all know that there was a mural that was painted over which destroyed a lot of our heritage.
Yeah,
Pictorially.
it's very sad. It's unfortunate, but our goal with various different organizations that I'm working with is to turn this into a positive situation, because there's a lot of history on murals that are being lost east of here, and La Raza can help us get there, because our objective is to identify all the murals that are in the area that represent the cultural history of our people. And what we want to do is create a registry, submit that registry to the city, and if there's anybody from the city here, what we're looking for is to have you at least have that registry in your hands that you could turn to anytime that a building gets sold or anytime that a building gets damaged or whatever, that that mural will be flagged as a historical document, and hopefully the organization can also help us attain that kind of relationship with the society.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, Bob, did you have something else you wanted to say real quick?
Yeah, real quick, real quick.
So we are talking about this property, this land, this park here. And so I did invite somebody special to come with me.
This is the surprise.
Well, it's not a surprise to him, I hope. But when we talk about this being a lonely land, and I want to help with that too, because that is important. But who sits, and Anthony, where are you at? Come on here. Who sits on Anthony sits on my right. On my left, there was Vice Mayor Grilly. This used to be the Grilly Ranch, too. And who we have in the audience is Dennis Grilly. So if he could come up here, because he told me there is a plaque, and you didn't tell me exactly where, you just pointed out that.
About right there.
So if
Down
you
in
could,
lower.
because that's how I first found out about some more history about History Park. So if you could just say a little bit about where that plaque is and the fact that you lived here, too.
Well, yeah, the plaque is in the lower valley area between here and the creek, and it is about straight out that direction. The plaque is in front of a large elm tree, and the family houses were around the elm tree. Bob asked me to come and give a brief history of the ranch and how it came to be the Grilly Ranch. He thought that was really interesting, so blame him. The ranch originally was purchased by Caesar Grilly, who was born in Italy, just south of Milan near Parma. Caesar had 4 children in Italy, and his first wife died, and he remarried. Both of his wives are named Luisa. However, he came to the United States originally in 1888. He went back to Italy briefly, and then with his second wife and her brother emigrated to America through Ellis Island, and they lived briefly in New York. My grandfather, Peter, was born in New York, They shortly thereafter moved to San Francisco, and were in San Francisco during the 1906 earthquake. He eventually, over the years, he had a total of 12 children, 4 in Italy, 8 here in the United States. They moved from San Francisco after the earthquake to San Jose. He built a house on South 6th Street, and then he and his son, Joe, bought the 34 acres that goes from Center to the creek, I think it's Coyote Creek, and from Phelan over to Alma. They planted in the lower area a walnut orchard, cherry orchard, and a vineyard that Joe and his son Guido worked until the land was sold to the city of San Jose. The land included what is now the Japanese tea gardens, and this area here, the Historical Society. As a child, all 4 of us, me and my 3 siblings, spent a lot of time on the ranch because my mother worked the ranch with Guido. We spent many family celebrations here on the ranch, particularly the 4th of July, because the San Jose fireworks was right across the road, and we would come up onto the upper area here and watch the fireworks. In 1917, Caesar sold the interest to the ranch to Joe, and he went back to Italy. He was getting older, his health was failing, and he died in his hometown in 1920. Some of the stories that we have in the family with regard to the property involve us as kids, because we were brought here from infancy to teenagers to work the ranch. One of the stories in particular that was funny was they used to use a flatbed truck to harvest the walnuts, carry the crates of walnuts. They had a vineyard, and Joe had a basement full of wine. There was always wine on the truck, which my brother found. And Joe got in a lot of trouble with my mother for letting Daniel have a little too much wine on the truck. But one of the interesting stories was one of the sons that was born in Italy, Chester, had a club foot. In fact, he had difficulty getting in his visa to come into the United States because of that handicap. But in 1918, he took a motorcycle trip from here to El Paso, Texas to visit a friend. And when he was out in El Paso, Texas, he decided to join the Army. He wasn't a citizen of the United States, and as a result, he had to take the citizenship test in order to get into the Army. The citizenship test consisted of one question: who's the President of the United States? Having the correct answer of Teddy Roosevelt, he was immediately brought into the service. And because of his disability, he was a mechanic on airplanes during that war. But
If you want to hear any more, you're going to have to come up and talk to him, because the stories about this ranch really are fascinating. we are,